All right, so hi everyone. My name is Sara Felice. I am the director of Point of Contact Gallery at Syracuse University. I'm sitting down today with Britt Thorp to talk a little bit about his work and his graduating thesis. So, welcome, Britt. Thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, we talked a little bit before this interview. You and I were actually neighbors for a time. So,
Yes.
so you're a maker at heart, and before clay, you were a chef. Was this your first experience as an artist, and do you draw similarities between those two lives, first as a chef and then as a ceramicist? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Actually, those two things were kind of coinciding the whole time. Like I got into ceramics in high school, and went and got my undergrad in ceramics from Ohio University. But then after that, there was like the itch to explore more. So as we all kind of know, artists don't get paid a whole lot of money. You got to have the side hustle. Um, so I started working as a chef and staging at different restaurants and kind of working my way up that ladder, and fell in love with it. Um, and I did that for quite some time, for about the last 10 years, and then kind of made the shift to come back to academia. For me, it's yeah, I'm a maker at heart. It doesn't matter if it's clay, if it's food, but there are these huge parallels between both of the practices. I think that I make pottery like a chef. Like my studio set up like the kitchen, like it's all about like efficiency and control and precision. And I would see that over and over again in the restaurant industry. When you're doing 300-400 covers a night and everything has to be perfect, with no complaints. That's very similar to loading a kiln and trying to get 300 pieces. I'll tell you, the making ceramics, there's a lot more duds, and failures. I think that in the kitchen, but that kind of work ethic and aesthetic definitely crossed over into both.
I have to comment on your desk in the background because you're talking about orderliness. I think that's probably the most clean desk ceramic I've ever seen. Thank you for that. That's excellent. So for your experience with both food and clay surrounds around communal gathering, right?
Sure.
So, but you've since taken on a new approach exploring intimate moments. Why this?
Right. Yeah, I was always drawn to kind of these parallels between the theatrics of the culinary world, of the dining experience, of these large groups sitting down at a large table and celebrating life. And for a long time, that was like the driving force in my making, is how can, as a chef, you respect the ingredients and make the food. And I think as a potter, you also respect the materials and make the dishes that then present the food. It's all about kind of respecting the moment. And for so long, it was very much tailored at like these large communal gatherings and like almost like curated dining experiences. But then COVID hit, and I think we all found some time for some introspection, and I think it could have gone one of two ways. You kind of like lose your mind in the solitude, or you try to kind of mine it, and figure out the driving forces in your work and like how to pull on that. For instance, like one of these new pieces that I've made is like this dual vase design, right? With these two large, this is the prototype here, these two large spires, right? That are so close but not touching. And like that came out of a really kind of simple and almost kind of nerdy and wholesome idea of just sitting around and having dinner with my dog, because like I couldn't go anywhere. I'm stuck at home. It's me and my pet. And I'm like, well, I can either wallow in this or enjoy it. And I think choosing to have that perspective, right? And letting that fuel the work was one of kind of the silver linings of the whole pandemic. So it kind of facilitated this whole shift to, all right, we've done the whole social gatherings and the thing, and now that we can't, how do we explore these quiet, intimate moments? You know, like you know, for instance, like, you know, Potters love coffee mugs, right? Those intimate moments. You wake up, you watch the sunrise, enjoy your cup of coffee in the morning. Yeah, that's been so. Yeah, COVID was the COVID was the catalyst for that, but it helped.
Good. Can I see the prototype again? Because I have to make a comment about it. It's
Yeah,
interesting because you're talking about, you know, that experience with your dog, but I always have been talking a lot about, to every artist I've encountered in the last few months, this like theme of collective trauma that everybody has. So it's like
sure,
almost like a literal representation of like these two unique individual experiences that almost mirror each other. And I
right.
love that.
And there was this nice kind of serendipity that happened in the kiln, because I choose to push these forms to a really high temperature where they almost start to break down and fall and swell. And on a couple of them, those spires came, I mean, a millimeter from touching. And like there's this really nice tension where, you know, I think we've all felt being so close to the edge or so close to something, but not quite there. Yeah.
Not quite touching it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my next question, you came to Syracuse University at an interesting turning point in your life. We spoke before how your sobriety is present every day in your work. I'm interested to talk about how this has evolved for you, what growth you have experienced on these almost parallel tracks of your life, sobriety and graduate school.
Sure. Yeah, you know, coming back to academia was a huge turning point. And without sugarcoating it too much, you know, working as a chef, you work really hard. It's 80-hour weeks. It's extremely rewarding, but you also play really hard. And that culture was not sustainable, and it wasn't conducive to a healthy lifestyle. And after trying for years to get sober and within the culinary culture, I couldn't. So I needed to make a drastic change. And so I kind of came back to my first passion, right, of clay. And, you know, I looked at different schools and researched kind of the culture there and settled on Syracuse. And it's been a really positive choice. The faculty have been incredibly supportive of my recovery. And I think it's just, you know, when I first got here, my first conversation with my professor, he asked me if there was any intimidation coming into graduate school. And I thought about it for a second and responded. And I said, you know, honestly, no. I said, you know, I am overwhelmed with gratitude to be here, but let's get one thing straight. Like, before I got here, you know, I was barely a few months sober. I had burned everything to the ground. I didn't have anything. I didn't have two nickels to rub together. I didn't have a roof over my head. So coming here and, you know, having an apartment and food in the fridge and clothes on my back and a purpose again, gave me this amazing perspective where everything I have today is a first world problem, you know, and I remind myself of that every single day. And because I keep that front and center, I'm a lot less prone to anxiety and stress and resentment. I mean, it's still there, but you got to put it in perspective. Like, the worst thing that happens today is some people don't like the art that I make. You know, like I get to wake up every morning and do what I love. I get to tick and problem solve and work with my hands and my brain, and also I get to teach this stuff. That's been an incredible learning moment on both parties. Like, getting to realize how much I enjoy teaching this stuff to a group of kids that are really jazzed up about it. That's been like the best part, and showing me that, like, I want to go forward with teaching this stuff, you know. Yeah, it's been a real blessing.
Great. And I love to talk about it and hear about it too, because, and we mentioned this before, is my own husband works in the restaurant world and has managed to go through being sober, doing that, right? So it's
Right.
a wild ride, and it makes you appreciate every day. So,
Absolutely.
so in connection with these intimate moments, do you feel these parallel lifelines were more of an introspective experience, or was your growth and development in this based on communal gathering? Now, this might be a kind of trick question because we're going through COVID at the same time.
Right.
But I mean, you can still have socially distant community, I suppose.
Right. It's been interesting. I've had to adapt and kind of pivot. I had my thesis defense yesterday, and I know for 3 years all of my professors have been expected like that I was going to feed them, that I was going to set up a whole table and do the whole 9 yards and with the pottery and the food and everything. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to present my work in that way due to the current circumstances. A joke was made that they could hold me back so that they can get the food. Um, but thankfully, I don't think they're going to do that. But no, it's definitely been a learning experience. It has shown me that, how do I say this? Although I do want to pursue teaching, that's only one of many avenues going forward. I think there's definitely a space for maybe like a design firm where I can work with chefs very closely and help them design their wares. And I also, there's this pipe dream idea in the back of my head that I've been stewing on forever of, down the road doing some kind of ceramic culinary residency, where ceramic artists could come and work and chefs could come and work, and it manifests itself as this for-profit restaurant that people can come and be a part of.
I'm coming
So
to
it
I'm
what's that?
coming to that.
Yeah, it's it would take some capital, it would take some people and a good place, and it's probably years down the road, but I can't get away from the idea. Like, there's so many great culinary schools with so much talent, and there's so many great artist residencies, and potters need chefs need potters. Like, it's asking to happen. And man, I think it would be so cool.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's like a post-COVID dream, right?
right. We get out on the other side of this and we're like, we can make this happen.
All right, so my last question.
Sure.
Title of your cohesive body of work and carrying the thick present connects back to the element of you as Britt Thorp, the chef, ceramicist, maker, artist, and whole person. Since you've overcome great obstacles to get to this point, your thankfulness for the present is obvious. I'll ask you for a moment to think ahead. How do you feel intimate and communal moments have changed over the last year and a half? Will this change the way we interact with your work on a permanent basis? And how will you use this as a seed for growth?
That's a really good question. um, I think moving forward, we talked about that residency, right? Of like bringing people together. But I think there's a way to grab onto the intimacy and like the personal a little more. And I don't know how it will manifest itself, but I would also like to get in touch with the recovery community in some avenue, and that could be doing pop-up like dining experiences at rehabs or something like that, and working with these kids that are struggling and showing them how to grow vegetables with their own hands or make pots, right? There's so much amazing therapy in all of these creative endeavors. And so, like, going forward, yes, I'd love to teach, but I think teaching can manifest itself in so many different avenues. And there's a therapeutic side to this that that saved me. And I know it can save others. And if I can just connect with the right people in the right moment, I think the power of this stuff is truly incredible. So I'm excited to see how it all unfolds.
I am too. Your common theme overall, I think, as an end note, is community service almost, which is really cool, and I can't wait to see what you do with it. So, well, congratulations, and
Well,
I hope your defense went well. I wasn't there, but
I got through it, so I'm happy to be on the other side.
good. All right. Well, thank you again for sitting down with me, and best wishes.
Thanks so much, Sarah.